gentlemen, Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM, AM 630, WMAL.
8:07 on a Wednesday morning. Brian Neiman, Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine's off on her honeymoon. We're pleased and lucky to have Tori Clark sitting in this morning.
Didn't have to hike far to get here, unlike Mary Catherine.
Right. Senator Jim DeMINT joins us now, Republican from South Carolina. Senator, good morning.
Good morning, Brian, and Tori.
Good morning, sir.
Good to have you.
A lot to get to this morning. I wanted to start off with Solyndra. I don't know if you saw the post this morning, but apparently they're running a story that says that the Energy Department pushed Solyndra to hold off on layoffs. They were apparently going to have to lay off some people until after the midterm election last year, after November 3rd of 2010. Just push it off for political reasons, obviously. I wanted to get your take on, as this story continues, do we just shake our heads at this is just the latest in a series of incidents?
Well, I've called it venture socialism, and I think it keeps proving me right there, because when the government starts trying to run our businesses, which it's doing not just with Solyndra but with others, giving them money, talking about layoffs, obviously, to affect elections, and what they're doing for unions around the country is so political. And counterproductive to our economy as well. So, there's this growing concern, I think, among most freedom-loving Americans that this government has a totally different idea of free markets.
1 week to go before the supercommittee needs to take action, or we begin sort of a painful process. You hear on one hand that maybe they're locked up, and then you hear on the other hand that Republicans have made an offer that would include $300 billion in new taxes. And apparently you hear that Hen Snarling's been over talking to the Republican caucus on the House side, sort of warming them up to the idea that we're going to get some serious cuts, but we're going to have to cough up $300 billion in new taxes. If these reports are correct, how do you feel about that?
Well, I want to say I told you so first. I voted against this debt limit deal that created the supercommittee because it's a no-win situation for Republicans and I think for our country. Anytime we start negotiating behind closed doors with Democrats, we're going to lose because we needed to make the tough decisions in August rather than kick it into this committee and hope they could come up with something. What they're talking about doing now are very nominal changes. They are no cuts, and I said that from the beginning. The Democrats are not going to be able to cut anything because their constituency is based on big government. And they're not going to do it, and so they're looking at we're going to save $100 billion from withdrawing from Iraq. Some kind of just gimmicks that they're going to try to use. And what they're looking at as far as tax increases, it just depends on how you look at it, Brian. Next year we're scheduled for the largest tax increase in history, and some of the Republicans have been working to keep the current tax rates rather than to go up like they're supposed to next year. And a lot of us, I would certainly take lower tax rates to get rid of all the loopholes. I know Tom Coburn's talking about some of those things. There are a lot of loopholes, subsidies, credits that we could eliminate and lower the tax rates so that our economy would work better. But we need to simplify the tax code. And I, for one, am not going to support any increase in taxes because we don't have a tax problem in Washington. We have a spending problem. It's spending.
Would you? I just wanted to stop you. Would you hold that position even if it meant you could protect the ongoing the Bush tax cuts ongoing?
Well, I want to be clear that again there are a lot of tax loopholes, wasteful subsidies, and directed tax credits that I would like to eliminate and then lower the rate. Now, some people may say, okay, you're eliminating a loophole, you're raising taxes. I think we should have a budget-neutral tax reform that simplifies our tax code, eliminates all of these loopholes, so-called things for the rich and others, but it all should be taken down into a lower tax rate because Washington doesn't need more money. It needs to cut spending. And I, for one, am a little upset that some Republicans have fallen into this trap of, okay, what about this tax increase? What about this tax increase? We could save $2.5 trillion just by taking welfare programs back to 2008 levels and beginning to cut some of the trillions of wasteful Washington spending. But we're not even talking about that stuff, which again, makes me pretty frustrated and angry.
Okay, Senator, speaking of frustrated and angry, we've been talking a lot today about Occupy D.C. and Occupy Wall Street, the protests. You're a well-grounded guy. You go back to your state and talk to real people. When you look at these protests, A, do you know, is there a common theme? Is there something they really want to change? And do you see this as a lasting movement, or is this something that's kind of temporary? When the weather gets bad, a lot of them will go away?
Well, they seem to be anarchists, and I don't know what the motivation is. Sometimes I suspect that these folks are trying to just discredit other citizen activism like the Tea Party movement, because when the Tea Parties are not going to want to be associated in any way with anarchists and people who are behaving the way these folks are. I went to many Tea Parties over the last couple of years, and there were hardworking taxpayers, responsible people who left the area they were in better than when they got there. And I think what's happening now with this Occupy movement discourages all citizen activism, and that may be the whole point of this.
Senator DeMINT, the debate was held last week in your state, which is an important state, and your approval of someone or a candidate goes a long way. Was there anyone who stuck out in your mind as performing very well at the debate in South Carolina Saturday night?
I don't think there's anyone waiting for me to tell them how to vote. But
I don't know. I think there are a lot of people.
You might be surprised.
Yeah, your words go a long way.
Well, no, I am watching. I've decided not to endorse because I want to focus my attention on electing conservatives to the Senate. But every debate seems to be a little bit different. For the last two debates, I'd have to say Newt Gingrich and Mitt Romney excelled in their depth of knowledge, their ability to articulate a vision. Just clarity there, and we'll see what happens in the upcoming debates. I think there's another foreign policy debate the Heritage Foundation is doing next week.
Right.
So we're learning a little bit in every debate, and I think in a month or so it'll be pretty clear which Republican is able to carry the torch. But they're talking collectively. The Republican candidates are talking about those things we need to talk about free markets and how allowing the markets to work are going to improve a lot of the services now that the federal government is actually diminishing.
All right, Senator DeMINT, it's always good to have you on the program.
Sir.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.